Welcome to Picks with the Professor, the show where a real statistics professor
and his friend Jake
gives you sports betting tips. I am your host, Professor Sides. For the latest updates and information, you can find me on Twitter at Professor Sides, and you can follow my friend Jake on Twitter at myfriend_Jake. This college basketball episode covers select games from Wednesday, November 16th, 2022. If you're new here, check out the webpage of the banner. It's www.pickswiththeprofessor.com/new for a primer and explanation. Otherwise, the goals for this episode are to share key information about these games, give you some things to think on, and explain why certain plays are being made. We never recommend blindly tailing or fading any pick, but rather to hear the justifications and thought processes to make sure you're fully on board with us or against us before investing your hard-earned money. Remember that Sideline has graded plays on every single game, but as always, take what you like and leave the rest. And if you have questions about these games or others, the best place to get those answers is in our Discord chat, which can be accessed through Patreon. Link is in the show description. As always, remember there are no locks in gambling. So what Sideline provides are loves, likes, and leans. It is A, B, and C grades to indicate its confidence level with respect to scaling wagers. However, please understand that good and bad variance will occur. So as much as we'd like to say we'll be profitable each and every day, that is an impossible reality for any gambler. Jake, I feel like I know I had this stretch in baseball earlier this season. I think maybe a couple times for short stretches where you have bad luck. Yeah. And you have just some bad reads. And that is a terrible combo. And you're like, I need the bad luck to at least hit what I'm doing well, or I need the good luck when I'm not to kind of like, I feel like it's one of those, you just like shake one off and the other one falls off and things start rolling. We're just waiting for it, you know?
Yeah. It's tough right now. I mean, like Temple tonight, that was wild. I mean, who knew?
Get to overtime, had a shot. And
who knew I was going to pick the, 2 games that added up to 3 overtimes. It was, Kentucky had a shot the whole time ahead of the second half and then just quit playing, kind of fell apart. Temple didn't play till the end. I mean,
they fell down in a hole, and if they played like they played at the end, getting it to overtime, they had a nice, easy victory.
Yep. And then, at least it looks like UC Irvine and Duke are going the right way. Oklahoma figured out how to basketball, I guess.
But Wilmington hung in there towards the end, just on the wrong side of the number.
Yeah.
But
we'll get it.
Yeah. It's one of those things talked about a lot here with baseball. If you go back and you look at the baseball records, I think I had like 3 out of 4 weeks in a row in the middle of the season where it lost, but it came right back out, and even with all that, still was extremely profitable. So we'll get it rolling here. Model's still doing pretty well for the most part. I don't think it did as well on Monday or on Tuesday as it had been doing in the past, but still looking pretty strong. And so hopefully the subset that you're picking out, we'll get it going here eventually. I like some of the ones you picked out today for sure. But before we get to those, some reminders, please hit that like button if you're on YouTube. Also, if you aren't yet, please consider subscribing or following. It's free. And if you turn on notifications to miss any of the college basketball, MLB, or college football content that this channel provides. And I've already mentioned that Patreon. But check that out if you haven't yet. Lots of great benefits to be found above and beyond what we do here. Membership starts at just $3 per month. www.patreon.com/pickswiththeprofessor. Even if you're not over there, we are thrilled to have you here. But I do have to say, I've been talking a lot with cousin Jared about this. He was telling me tonight, he was like, I've got to find a way to advertise this. And I was like, that's you. I hope you do, because I'm a terrible marketer. But he was talking about all of the good numbers he gets from getting those opening numbers, $15 a month, and the amount of profits that he's pulling off of just that alone way more than makes up for it. A great example was Chattanooga. Loved Chattanooga today, and that number came down. He got on the opener, and it covered and won. And the number that I got it at later in the night didn't. And that's sometimes the difference, right? It's just getting those good numbers. The plays he's making, he's talking about like almost every single one of them is moving his direction. And a couple of them, he's getting the number at big enough moves that it's winning, and then it moves, and then it loses at a different number. That's the best pitch I can make is having those numbers right when the lines come out can really make a huge difference.
Yeah. This isn't like college football where you can kind of track and find that it's because there's every day and it's very quick and the lines move lightning fast. Yeah. All of a sudden a pick can almost flip itself because of how much the line moves, especially with some of these smaller.
We've seen it.
Yeah,
we've seen it too with a handful of games that we've talked about on this show. One he was talking about from a couple days ago was that Butler Penn State game. He was talking about how he went and he made the play at Butler like plus 11. And before he could click submit, it had dropped 10.
before
he could even get the bet in. He took it at 10. And then he went over to BetStamp to lock it in. And before he could even lock it at BetStamp, it went to 9. And that game closed 5 and I think finished 6 or 7, something like that. So
yeah.
6 maybe. It was one of those where he got the number and it won. And if you waited too late, it lost. So I mean, it's just so many example after example, like you said. There's so many games. There's a bunch of bad numbers being hung right when they come out. Grab those really good numbers. Again, $15 a month for college basketball season. It'll be worth your investment, I think, if you're able to get those really good numbers. Like I said, they move so fast. It's not like football. You have the whole week, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, enough of that. We'll get to it here. All lines courtesy of Bet Online. Sign up link in the show description if you want to play the same numbers that we are looking at. And current as of the time of this recording on Tuesday nights, we're going to start off with the A-plus play of the day. Jake, I talked about this one here last a couple episodes ago with Tennessee, how the model had an A-grade play fading Tennessee against Colorado. Colorado with the outright winner. As shocking as that was, because I think we all expected Colorado to cover that number, but we didn't expect it to do that. Here, 6 p.m. Central, they're taking on Florida Gulf Coast at home. Sideline says this should be a 16-point spread. And so that's quite a difference from the number that I locked in earlier in the day here. I was able to lock in plus 21. Currently, that number's at 20.5. Why is Florida Gulf Coast plus 20.5 your A-plus play of the day?
Look, Florida Gulf Coast has got a pretty decent team. They went out to USC, beat USC. They don't turn the ball over well or much. They've got 3 really good players in Johnston, Anderson, and Thompson. And then they've got a really good point guard in Cato, who's got a 5-to-1 assist turnover ratio right now. So they make the right decisions. They play well. They seem to be very well coached. But this play, honestly, is more against Tennessee. Tennessee is a very, very good defensive team, but their offense is bad. They have fallen in love with the 3, just like last year, without so much of a point guard like Kennedy Chandler to make things happen. They don't really have a guy they can give the ball to and say, okay, make something happen. They don't have that. So that really hurts them, especially when these threes aren't going. Of the 128 shots they've taken on the year, 81 of them have been threes, and they're hitting below 30%. It's just not a good combo. With Euros Placic going out with an ankle, it doesn't look like he's going to play. So that really gets rid of their big bully. They've got some height size with Kamwa and Aidu, but they don't have a lot of thick down there. And I mean, Josiah Jordan James's offense has reverted back to what it was in the first half of last year. He's not playing very well. Phillips hasn't been the 5-star freshman they thought he was going to be. Key has been everything anybody could dream of and more. He's just not super athletic to get his own shot, but he's got a very fast shot and is probably the best offensive player on the team. He's a lot of fun to watch. Tennessee's offense isn't designed well right now for the players they have, and if they go cold shooting, there's a chance Florida Gulf Coast wins this outright, just like what happened in the Colorado. It's just they're having such a hard time scoring. But if those threes go in, look at the second half of Tennessee Tech. They absolutely ran away from them. They took an 11-point lead and stretched it out to almost 40. It's just they're living and dying by the 3, and you tend to die more, and you live with that.
So I think I don't want to drag this out too long, but I do think this is a really important point to elaborate on what you just said there, especially with the prevalence of the 3-ball now in college basketball, that this trend that's happening over the last 4 or 5 years or so that we've seen. There's a reason why I always recommend with college basketball you to bet as many games as you're comfortable betting. And that doesn't mean try to bet things you don't have an edge on or you don't like. Always only bet things that you either have an edge on or you like, or you have a model that you trust, so you like it because the model you trust likes it, whatever it may be, or you have someone else, whether it's us or someone else that you trust, that you like. Don't just play things to play things. But I'd rather have more plays in a sport like college basketball than fewer plays. And the reason why is the variance on these 3 balls is through the roof. That's why I say there's no locks in gambling. Tennessee can win this game by 50 if all those 3s fall.
Yeah,
and that's what we're talking about, though. In the long run, if they play this game 100 times, what the model says is the average is that they're going to win by about 16. That makes getting 20 points a play that's going to win you money in the long run. The problem is they play this game one time. Well, That's why I always say, if you can play as many games as you're comfortable playing, that doesn't mean you have to play every single one of them. And again, don't play things you don't like. I can't iterate that enough. But if you know, if you can, I'd rather you play 10 games than 5. I'd rather you play 15 than 10 if you're comfortable with them, because that variance is going to wind itself in and out of more games, and you're going to have fewer just really wonky type results. So Tennessee could absolutely run away with this game. We don't think on average that's the case. But if you're playing multiple games of this stature, we think it's going to be an overall profitable night. We think you're more likely to be able to go, 14-6. But if you only play 3 games, you might go 1-2, right? So it's one of those where there's a lot of variability, especially with teams like Tennessee, like you said, take the 3 ball, which, like you said, could lead to them outright losing, right? So you just never know what's going to happen. The idea being 20.5 points, which is what the number is now. Again, $10 per month gets you the early access to these videos, ad-free videos, and it gets you the early access to the picks. You got the picks, you got 21, might have help you a little bit more, but hopefully you already locked that in at a good number. Don't know where this number is going to go, but getting north of 20 makes a lot of sense in this game. So that is our A-plus play of the day, grabbing all those points with Florida Gulf Coast. So the best B side, we're going to turn it to South Bend, Indiana, playing South Bend, Indiana, in northern Indiana, playing southern Indiana. So there's your geography lesson right there. Lock this one in at Notre Dame -14. It's currently sitting at 15. Sideline says it should be 16. Southern Indiana, a team that's making a jump up from Division II. We've seen several teams jump up from Division II, kind of with mixed results here the last couple of years. Some of them have done a little bit better than we expected. Some of them haven't. On average, there is a little bit of a struggle. You do kind of know it's coming, so you can, it's not a completely super crazy tough transition, but it's not often seamless either for these teams coming up. They oftentimes lack a little bit of depth, a little bit of talent, especially now going up and playing a top half for sure in college basketball team in Notre Dame. Jake, why is this your best B-side, laying it with Notre Dame?
Because you kind of mentioned all my points, right? Southern Indiana.
We didn't talk about this beforehand, so that was just by accident that I mentioned that I talked about all your points.
Kind of going from D2 here. They're struggling with, I think, the pace of the play. They're turning the ball over at a very high rate. First game was 22 times, and it's 18 times against a lesser talented team. Like, they've got a good starting 5-ish talent-wise. It falls off very quick, and that's the biggest issue from going from D2 to D1. But with the turnovers, you're going to have to kind of look past Notre Dame's last 2 games where they kind of struggled to beat some so-so mid-majors. They've been bit by this injury bug. They've got 4 guys that aren't playing that are key contributors. They've got only 7 guys playing right now. And in the 2 games, they've only had 7 guys playing, but the starting 5 are just killing it. Everybody's scoring like crazy. They're shooting the ball very well. They hit their free throws around like 85 to 90%. And they're extremely well coached. I can't really say this enough. Mike Bray's one of my favorite coaches out there. He seems to do a lot with a little. And if there's anybody out there that can take a 6.5 man rotation and win by big spreads like this, it would be him. Also think it seems the pace of play that Southern Indiana wants to play is faster, which leads to more turnovers and things like that. And they're not going to be able to speed up Notre Dame, and they're going to turn the ball over too much. I think Notre Dame is going to be able to hit the 3 ball enough and score. They're just loaded. They're very concentrated in talent right now because they just don't have a lot of guys healthy. So they've got a lot of talent and just a few players, but they should take care of this very easy because I think Southern Indiana is going to make too many mistakes.
It's interesting. Notre Dame is the only defense that doesn't rank in KenPom's top 100 of the top 70 teams in college basketball, but their offense is ranked 17th. Pretty good, efficient offense so far this season, using the prior distribution of what we expected coming in.
Yeah, I think that has a lot to do with the players they have out because they've not been able to play a lot of their defense they're probably getting tired, but I think with some time off here, they've got enough to get this one done. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you said it's definitely a clash of styles. Notre Dame wants to play a much slower game, and what we've seen so far from Southern Indiana, they want to play an up-tempo game, and that's, it feels like a scary recipe for Southern Indiana to play a faster tempo against a team with as good of an offense as it seems like Notre Dame might have on the road. Like, it feels like if you're trying to play that fast, you're going to turn the ball over. You might take some weaker shots, and you might let the other team who's efficient get more shots, which isn't what you want. It seems like if Southern Indiana does what we think they're going to do, that spells disaster for them.
Yeah, it's very similar to the UC Irvine Loyola Marymount game we were talking about today, yesterday, however you want to phrase that, when we record the first of the game.
The whole recording late night, and then sometimes it gets into past midnight Eastern time. I'm sure it messes with your head.
But that game, it's a very similar kind of setup, except they've got more talent in Notre Dame than you do.
Right.
A bigger talent difference.
Bigger talent, yeah, for sure, absolutely. All right, so that's your best B-side they're laying with Notre Dame. So the Jake on a Limb segment, a game where the model says, no idea, but you think you've got an edge. We're going to go to Pittsburgh here. A couple big, I say to Pittsburgh, to a neutral site game with Michigan and Pittsburgh. This one right now is Michigan minus 9.5. The model says it should be 9.2. So the model just says, hey, it's priced pretty well. The model did take a C grade pick on Michigan, laying the points. But again, not a strong suggestion there. Jake, what is your recommendation for this game?
Look, we're going with sideline. We're going to take the 9.5 here with Michigan. Pittsburgh is bad. They're just so bad. They just got absolutely waxed by a middling West Virginia team. I know it was in Morgantown, but that still doesn't. They are just they're just struggling everywhere around. It's got to the point where I don't know if Capel is head coaching material. He struggled with Oklahoma. I think he got fired from there. Was assistant at Duke forever. And has not done well here at Pittsburgh. He was an improvement over Kevin Stallings, but I mean, when you go for the whole ACC schedule, it's not hard to be an improvement. And so it's just he's not getting a lot of talent in. So which was his big thing at Duke. He was able to recruit. It's not translated to Pittsburgh. They just don't have the talent. They also don't have the big guy to battle Hunter Dickinson right now.
Well, they think that their big guy will come back for this game from injury, but I'm not sure how 100% he's going to be. First game of the season, didn't play any of the preseason games. It, feels like it could be a limited minutes or just a limited effectiveness type thing. I mean, this is not how you want to play your first game against Michigan. That's not what you're looking for.
Yeah, a team that can run it. I mean, Hunter Dickinson can be a very physical player, and he also can step out and hit the three ball.
Yeah, just a nightmare. I feel like for so many, like we talked about with Zach Edey on Purdue, the same sort of thing just can cause a lot of problems for other teams.
Yeah, he's one of the better players to watch play right now. He also is just with as physical he's going to be and as fast as that Michigan team run. If you're not 100, he's not. There's no way that the big guy for Pittsburgh is in game shape. There's in shape and then there's game shape because adrenaline kicks in. You try too hard too quick and then you're gassed, and that's only going to make Hunter Dickinson look better. But if you're not playing at full speed, they've got some pretty good guards coming in. The freshmen they had are very good. Juwan Howard's kids are actually good. I wasn't sure about that. I thought maybe they're riding off the Howard name, but no. Yeah, they're actually pretty good. Especially Jet. Jet looks really good. I don't think Pittsburgh's got enough here on offense, and I'm worried because I really like Capel. He seems to be a decent coach. I just don't know if he can do the whole head coaching thing. He might just need to be the top assistant somewhere. But Michigan should get this by 12 to 15 easily.
All right, so you're laying 9.5 with Michigan. Of note, team rankings has Pittsburgh ranked 151st right now. There's a chance this team is in Louisville type trouble for this season.
Gosh, how heartbreaking was that for Louisville to lose like they did? I know the cover was never there, but
this is 3 in a row by 1 point is we're at setting record territories for just to continue to lose by 1 is incredible.
It's got to be demoralizing to be in that locker room.
It's got to be. We'll take us next to the must-see TV segment. I mean, a game that I don't think there's any question what game we were going to highlight on this one. 8:30 Central, Gonzaga at Texas. Sideline says this should be Texas minus 0.95. The current spread is Texas -1. So it's spot on, basically. It's basically a pick 'em. If Texas does win by 1, no matter what you do, you push. So basically just picking the winner here. Sideline thinks the Zags a better team, but on the road kind of counteracts that a little bit. Should be a great game to watch. Who you picking and why?
I'm taking Texas here. this is where we're going to learn something about Texas, and
Yeah, absolutely.
This could come crashing down on me, but I think they are actually the better team here. They've absolutely destroyed their first two teams, and it should be a lot of fun to see what they do against a very offensively talented team in Gonzaga. Like Texas is loaded, absolutely loaded. Chris Beard is an incredible coach. He's going to get these guys playing defense, but right now they've got three guys averaging double digits. The other two in the starting five are in the 7 to 9 range. Tyrese Hunter, I know is his last name. I can't remember if it's Tyrese. I keep getting confused with the NBA player. They're from Iowa State. Very, very good point guard. Absolutely incredible. He gives them so much more because he takes care of the ball and does the distributing, starts the offense, allows Marcus Carr to play off the ball where he is a lot more comfortable. Gonzaga is a very talented team, but they're struggling to find a point guard. Malachi Smith from Chattanooga hasn't fit in that role like they thought he would. In that Michigan State game that they won by 1, they only had 8 assists, and that is not going to get it done here against a very defensively exceptional defensive coach that Chris Beard is, and with the length and the athleticism that he has around him here at Texas, like you've got to be able to move the ball. You can't depend on ISO because that's playing right into their hands. This is the kind of post matchup that big guy from Gonzaga, Timmy. Timmy typically thrives in with not weak is not the right word, but not as much of a physical presence down low where he can be the more physical guy. So I'm interested to see what they do with him.
Where he's not going to get pushed around. When he gets pushed around, it's a little bit more of a trouble. He kind of use his agility and his speed and quickness rather than just being knocked off, a spot that very different world for him depending on who he's going up against.
Yeah, and I think it'll be very interesting to see what Chris Beard does here to like kind of scheme him out of it. And I think I have all the faith in the world that Chris Beard can get it done, and I really like Texas to win this game.
I think this is a fascinating matchup. I'm just going to pull up KenPom real quick. And again, the ratings are still heavily influenced by the prior distribution based off of last season, based off of coaching styles, of course. So there's a lot that goes into that. It's not just this season because this season's only 2 games and the ratings would be so heavily influenced by the prior. But nevertheless, right now he has Gonzaga as the number 1 rated offense and Texas the number 1 rated defense. Also, both teams just outside the top 10 in the other thing because they're both really good teams. Tempo-wise, Gonzaga 18th, Texas 328th. I mean, Texas knows they're a good, very good, elite defensive team, wants to play it slower. Gonzaga knows they're a very good, elite offensive team, wants to play it faster. It should be fascinating to see how it plays out.
Last time Chris Beard had a very similar talented team, he took them to the championship game and kind of came out of nowhere with Culver and them. Like he's got that kind of talent here. I'm not saying Texas in the championship game. I'm just saying he can take a team that with players that not everybody knows and make them look a lot better. I can't wait to see what he does with this Texas team this year.
I'm going to argue that the under should play this game as well. It's the same thing I said about the Champions Classic or whatever we're calling that with those games. These high-profile games, people tend to bet the totals up. The total from when I locked picks in, about 3 hours ago until now has gone from 143.5 to 144.5. Who knows where it'll be in the morning or by middle of the day. The model says 140. Let that thing get as high as possible. Maybe don't wait until right before tip off because there might be some of that hard money, under money come in. I don't know when, 10 minutes before, 30 minutes before, hour before, not really sure. But as this thing gets higher and higher at some point, I think the under makes a lot of sense. And not to say that it's like I can't score and can't play fast or whatever, but it's just one of those things where a lot of times in these big games, teams feel each other out a little bit more early on. And again, people are just blindly backing, just want to see points. That gives you a little bit of value on the under. So at some point, I think the under might make a lot of sense in that game too. That's just my 2 cents on this game.
Yeah, and not bashing the public here, but people see Gonzaga's name and think scoring. I mean, look at that Michigan State game. That game barely got in the 30s.
Didn't even close.
Yeah,
and that the wind wasn't really that big of a factor in that game.
No,
the
not
weather
this
was fine. Yeah, it was. Yeah. It wasn't like there were 20-mile-an-hour gusts. I mean, sure, the wind might have affected a couple of shots, but I mean, that game didn't get close to going over.
No, it's this one. I think will be around the same type of scoring. I think 70s will be at the high end if both teams shoot lights out. I think this is much closer. Like 70, 65, something like that, like in the mid 130s.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, I think under makes a lot of sense in that one as well. We're going to go to overtime now. There's one other A-grade play that you really like that you want to talk about. Get on record and say, hey, all the A-grade plays are doing well. Talk about they're not all going to win, but this is another one that you really like. 6:30 p.m. Central. Presbyterian is playing UAB. Sideline says this should be UAB minus 23. I was able to lock this one in earlier at minus 21. Checking for it currently now, it is still sitting at minus 21. So you can still lay only 21 here. Sideline says it should be more. They're going to run away with this one. I think we've faded Presbyterian a lot this year. I think basically it's just like we did Louisville, right? Just keep fading them, right?
Yeah, it's. I mean, at some point it'll bite us, but I don't see it coming soon. I mean, Presbyterian gave us a scare for the life with Eastern Carolina, but still ended up losing that game by 20. ECU is nowhere near the team UAB is. UAB ran into a Toledo team that sped them up.
ECU was nice enough to spot them like a whatever that was 15-point lead in the first half, and still got destroyed in that game.
Yeah, that was an unreal second half, which was but I mean, UAB ran into a Toledo team who's a very good team. They turned the ball over a lot. I think some of the outside noise and everything got to UAB a little bit here, and with the bright lights, and where Toledo didn't have as much pressure because there wasn't as much attention thrown on Toledo. But UAB and Jelly Walker had an off night that game. It went 9 of 23. They shot 23% from three, which is not going to happen very often with this UAB team.
It's like we talked about at the top of the show, right? There's no locks in gambling, and sometimes teams are going to have crazy good nights, and sometimes they're going to have really off nights. And what we're talking about is the average night, and that's where we make multiple plays, right? Because we're talking about the average. That was happened to just be one of the bad performances, but we don't expect that every night.
No. I mean, Jelly Walker still had 23 points in his 9 for 23 shooting. I mean, he's electric. Watch this game if you can, just for him. Presbyterian just does not have the talent here. They're not able to keep up.
I was going to say, you talk about him. It's an A-grade name for sure, in my opinion.
But I mean, Jordan Walker. But I don't know exactly where Jelly came from, but I love it. But so I think UAB gets up early, gets up quick, and just cruises. I think they'll be up. At some point, you'll see them with a 30-point lead, and it'll kind of go back down. But I think they'll get up there towards 30 and stay above this 21 number all night.
Yeah, Toledo's just a whole different story, right? Toledo's defense isn't amazing, but it's still a heck of a lot better than Presbyterian's. And the biggest difference, I think, between these two teams is actually not the defense, but the offense, in that Toledo's offense is pretty good. Presbyterian's offense is terrible, and that actually puts pressure on UAB's offense, because I think UAB, every time they had the ball, is thinking, we've got to score because we know Toledo's going to score. Well, you have a whole lot less pressure when you're playing Presbyterian because their offense is so terrible. You can just go out there and play your game, get your points, and you know you're going to be set, which just changes the mindset. It's kind of like the whole best offense is a good defense thing, in my opinion. It's like the fact that they're playing such a bad offense, coming off of playing such a good offense, is going to make their offense better because they know they don't have to win the game, because they know Presbyterian's not going to score that many points. Makes their lives a lot easier, right? So it definitely seems like a runaway spot for UAB.
Yeah, and like I said, I think maybe UAB bought into their own hype a little bit going into that game, and I think that going to knock them back to earth and let Andy Kennedy get this team going again, because they are good enough. They do have the talent to really, really make some noise in March.
Yep, absolutely. All righty, well, that is it for us. All the games we're going to cover for your Wednesday. Jake, any parting words?
No, I mean, I'm still sweating out this Duke game, so.
All right. Well, thanks for tuning into this episode of Picks with the Professor. Don't forget to subscribe so you can ensure all the sports betting content we provide on this channel is dropped right into your feed. We'll be back again tomorrow with more college basketball betting content. Again, 3 college football episodes out there for you to consume for your Week 12 college football betting. Until we see you again, as always, best of luck. And remember, you can eat your betting money, but please don't bet your eating money.